So the last video in this series about the helper methods from the WordSearcher class, part of the simple search stream example, is going to be the implementation of print_slice. As you can see, it's more interesting than print results. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. The purpose of this method, of course, is to print a slice of the results, starting in a particular word that we give as the input. And as you can see here, we take our list of results, convert that into a stream. We go ahead and call the groupingBy factory method, which returns to us a map, which will be implemented by linked hash map, as we'll see, that will have this as the key and this as the values. Linked hash map preserves the insertion order, as we talked about before. And as we also talked about before, toDownstream_collector is going to be used to convert these things into a list of results that are merged. We then take the linked hash map that comes back from collect. We get a list of the entries in it, which are the key value pairs that correspond to the entries of the map. We turn that into a stream. And then, as we talked about before, this is where things get interesting. So now we have the dropWhile method here. And that's going to basically slice the stream to contain the elements after dropping the subset of words that don't match the word parameter. So the word parameter passed in here. And we're going to drop things while the entry doesn't match the word. And then we're going to go ahead and print the matching results in the stream when we're all done. And you can see here that we're going to call print result, passing in the key, which comes from the entry, and the value, which also comes from the entry. So what this is basically doing is it's slicing the stream of entries, and the stream of entries, of course, come because we converted the entry set into a stream. So we have a stream of entries. We filter out the ones, or we don't filter them out. We drop the ones until it equals what we're looking for. And then we have a substream, or a slice of the stream of entries. And then we go ahead and call print result, passing in the key and the value of these things. And of course, this is the maps for each method, not the streams. Actually, wait a second. Hold on. No, I take it back. This is backwards. This is the streams for each method, not the maps for each method, because we converted the elements back into a stream back up here. And so now we got a stream, so we can drop them and do the slice. So that is backwards. Yes, sir? Oh, great questions. The question is how to drop and filter, compare and contrast. So if you recall, filter has to look through every single element in the stream, and it decides whether or not it lets it through or not. But it looks through them all. dropWhile and takeWhile is the other one that works much the same way, just the reverse. dropWhile will stop once it finds something that matches what it's looking for. So with filter, let's say we had 100 elements in the stream. If you apply filter, we have to look at 100 elements in order to decide whether to let any one of them through. With dropWhile, it kind of says, while the condition is not satisfied, while the condition is satisfied, in other words, while we don't equal the word we're looking for, ignore it, but keep processing. And as soon as we hit something that matches, then it returns the remainder of the stream, the substream, the slice of the stream, if you will, and stops its processing. So it's kind of like a while loop, right? It's sort of like the difference between a for loop or a for each loop and a while loop. So a for loop or a for each loop says, from beginning to end, do all these things. dropWhile is kind of like a while loop that says, while this condition is true, keep going, but as soon as the condition is false, stop. So, of course, you can imagine a situation where you never match what you're looking for, or you never get something that doesn't match what you're looking for. The condition is always satisfied, so dropWhile will go through the whole thing. So then filter and dropWhile would be identical. But if dropWhile's condition, when dropWhile's condition, or if dropWhile's condition is no longer satisfied, it'll stop, whereas filter will have to go from beginning to end every time. Unless an exception is thrown, of course. But yeah, that's a great question. Okay, so we already ascertained that's backwards. It's streams method. here is the not equal method. So not equal is just a little helper method that we use here in order to be able to return true if the key doesn't equal the word. Otherwise, it returns false when they equal. And so what it does here is it says entry, and then it says entry.getKey. So you get the key dot equals. So we're looking to make sure that these things don't equal. So this returns true if they're not equal. Otherwise, it returns false if they're equal. So that's why we're going to drop. We're going to drop while the condition doesn't match the word. And then so once we match the word, then drop while is done, and we can continue on our merry way with the next element in the stream. And then here's print result. So this is basically just printing the word followed by the list of search results. OK, so that's the end of print_slice. So these little helper methods are fairly simple. But the thing that's cool about them, I think you'll agree if you kind of take a look at the bigger picture view here. Let's go back to the start. So if you take a look at this and you imagined how you would do something like this in the absence of streams, you would have a lot more work to do because you'd have to, basically find some way by hand to create a new hash map or linked hash map and, find the word. You'd have to have a while loop. You'd have to have conditional expressions. You would have to come up with ways to merge the lists. You'd have to then probably you'd probably have to write a couple of loops to do all this stuff, maybe three loops, at least a couple of loops to do all this. Whereas with streams, and the reason why loops are tricky is because when you read a loop, you have to kind of follow the whole loop body down to the end and ask yourself the question, what happens when I go back to the top and the condition gets compared, and you'll have all these if-else statements in there and so on. So it gets tricky because there's a lot of code to think about. You can't easily take a loop and just read it from top to bottom. Conversely, in this code, once you understand streams, you can kind of read this thing from top to bottom. You say, take a list of results, turn it into a stream, convert it into a linked hash map, get the entry set from the hash map, turn that into a stream, skip over everything until you find the substream that matches where the word occurs, and then print the results. So in my mind, it's much more declarative. It kind of says what it does. You don't have to think about the mechanisms. The control constructs are factored out into the elements of the stream, which is cleaner. And as a consequence, you have less to think about, and you can read it linearly from top to bottom, as opposed to trying to have to play, runtime interpreter in your head and figure, okay, what happens if this if statement gets called? What happens if we loop back again? When does the loop break? And stuff like that. So I like the streams mechanisms for that reason, because they help you to think more clearly, and they help to focus on the computations to be performed rather than getting caught up in the mechanisms of achieving those computations. So that's kind of the big benefit of that.